The angels in the Bible are messengers with one mission from God. As a Jew, I don't see myself as an angel, though I strive to express the characteristics of an angel. For me, this takes the form of doing mitzvot, which is plural for mitzvah and generally translated as good deeds. There aren't any prescribed forms. It's more an encouragement to be thoughtful, kind, generous, helpful, and generally being of service. The key for me about being angel-like or doing mitzvot is that you give what you can, that you do what you can, and in the way that we can, and that we feel moved to give. And lastly, that we give without the expectation of receiving something in return. And it is an expression of your faith. That said, I have a more personal story to tell. I lived in Berlin, Germany for 8.5 years. I myself was a stranger in a strange land. I'm American. I've lived most of my life in America. So one time I got a call from, as it happens, a fellow Jew, an Israeli who had moved, was very newly in Germany. It was winter and the housing situation was really not working for him. The room he got was some back room of this big apartment, and the heating system just really was not carrying heat back there. So he was sick, not having anyone to turn to, and not getting any response from the fellow whose apartment it was. He reached out to me and I said, come on over. And he stayed with me for, I think, 4 days or so. I fed him, warm lentil soup and some bread and some salad and whatever, and really gave him a hot shower and just really provided him a place to recuperate and get well again. It wasn't because he was also Jewish. It wasn't because he was Israeli. It was because he was a human being in need. There were 2 other times also that I did kind of a similar thing. They were graduates of my college, Oberlin College in Ohio, and they were traveling through and, young, didn't know anybody, didn't know German. Again, it was really, you get feeling lost and stressed in that situation. And to have someone, in this case, not a religious connection, but a university connection. And we'd never met before, but again, they stayed in my living room and I provided, this was all at no cost to me. I wasn't going to charge them for providing housing. I was welcoming the stranger. And I was just so grateful to be in a position to help someone out who was traveling through and feeling at a loss, or in the case of this first guy, really physically not well.
So going back 52 years actually, I was really interested in getting a summer job in Washington, D.C. A classmate of mine, Vicki Laney, lived in Silver Spring, Maryland, just outside of the district. And so I was able to arrange a shared ride with her and a few other students. As we approached Maryland, Vicki said, so Bruce, where should we drop you off? And I was so naive. I said, well, just drop me off at a hotel somewhere near the National Mall around the Capitol or the White House. And I'll just from there go and find a job. And she said, wait, you don't have any place to stay? You don't have a job? And she was amazed that, what are you doing here? And so we went to her home, and I can only imagine her conversation with her parents. They took me in. I remember spending that night on their couch, and they fed me dinner, gave me breakfast. Brother Laney worked at the Pentagon. So the next morning, he dropped me off at a corner in downtown Washington and went on to the Pentagon. And I spent that day walking up and down the mall looking for a job. No success. This went on for I think 3 days until through a bit of a miracle, I found a job at the Department of Labor. So then Sister Laney took over and helped me work through the newspaper ads to find an apartment, found a little tiny attic apartment for next to nothing. She drove me to a grocery store, helped me buy some food. She drove me to my apartment to get me set up. She taught me how to use the buses so I could get from my little apartment to my job and saved my life. I mean, looking back, I can't imagine what I was thinking to go to this city with no job, no contacts, really no clue. And they rescued me. And it turned out to be an amazing summer experience. So some years later, I contacted Brother and Sister Laney, and I wanted to thank them for the amazing role that they had played in my life. So we made contact, and it was humbling, but they didn't really remember me. And at first I thought, I wish you would remember me. But then I realized I probably was one of dozens of people that they had helped over their lives of being angels, just caring for those around them and not giving it much thought. And to them, it was not a big deal. That was just the Christ-like life they lived.